She can now farm her land. But for Flavia Chomhendo, a 42-year-old mother of 5, life was not like this a year and a half ago when she almost perished at the hands of her relatives. She had returned home with some of her children after a divorce and tried to start life afresh, living on a piece of land allocated to her by her parents. From her village of Kitonozi in Bwijanga sub-county, Masindi district, she recalls the day she almost lost her life.
Bakanyirukya nekipanga nibenda kuntema obukomero bw'okurora obwo nkabambya eremena nansi zona baziburura mpaka kuli banyirukya nekiso kuntema nyagwa na hali nefuka yange bakagitwara nati kinkagifunaga achwere mkimu esirime yange kunyita leka bantema ateme banyite nuko batwara obuchweka bwange bunu bwona.
When she escaped from her tormentors, she took refuge at the neighbor's house and continued accessing HIV services at a local-based service provider. On one of the clinic days, Uganet legal officers came to give a talk about human rights. That is how help came her way.
Hati ekitongole ekikyatugamba tutabonabona bo baliho kutukwata mukono nuko tutenuga tukeikola ebibi nyote nkwadupa buzibu bwambikirano kabanchire mu kuita habo kwanka buzire no busingi ningira anti businge munemene bangambe silime kisilimu kiyaki ohali kweha nero naiwe uja kuikara hao nibambuliza kimwe busingi ndemere kimune kiyokora.
The Uganda Network on Law Ethics and HIV/AIDS, Uganet, was established in 1995 to bridge the gap between human rights, legal, ethical, and policy issues, and HIV/AIDS care and prevention. Its legal officers and paralegals work in disadvantaged communities, educating people about human rights and offering legal aid to the vulnerable members of society, particularly those affected and infected by HIV/AIDS. Uganet works in the 5 districts of Uganda: Kampala, Palisa, Ntungamo, Lira, and Masindi. Each year, it ensures that increasing numbers of people in marginal communities get help. It is through meetings like these where Chomhendo came to be aware of the free legal aid services.
Aba Uganet nkubesimisa muno habo kubanka bandemera obusinge buli hali nyakagenda gekirwali kyasilimu ekyo kirifwadi hitwa kiejuna buli hali nyakagira ganti niko kuchamu kugamba kabantene banyite nuko bicheka bintu byana bitwale kyonko bunyagenzero mu kitongere eki nyabasobororera bayija hanu bangamba guma otafwayo itetuloho nibankansolenga ko kakihura nyahura ngumire bangumya hati bano bayizire kana kachweka kabatwaye bagamba leka bakatwale nyabagamba mpeme sente bampome sente hati nyo bangamba kanu nikakange bakangarora kana.
Milton Mpurwa was the Secretary Local Council 1. He's also Chomhendo's neighbor, who sheltered her during her time of distress.
Gali mazima kitongole kya Uganet nikiyamba abukuba we kunenyuma kunoona kabatungiremo kuziringitanizibwamu kyonka kandi byakira irukiro uko twazoka obukonyezi ya butunga bwa amani kuba nabatayikale ham bakayimukiramu bayija barura kike kikutabura dina nyuma ya batwikaza babasobora bulomye yitegereza okuba atale ebintu tugendaga tukora tutayino kumanya.
Justice Dr. Esther Kisache is one of the founder members of Uganet.
We started Uganet in 1995. By that time, it was almost 10 years since we had started to openly speak about HIV/AIDS in this country. But in most cases, the HIV/AIDS response had taken on almost, I would say, first it was a purely medical response, where they said protect yourself, avoid the virus, and everybody at the time in the country and up to now, they said awareness levels were 98%. Then we tried to broaden, when the government multi-sector approach broadened that response, again it was looking at some of the moral issues, don't have many partners, because you're exposing yourself to the epidemic. What the government response at the time failed to respond to was the fact that particularly, for some groups, the vulnerable groups, and I would cite the women, for example, in most cases they don't have a choice.
Today, Uganet has reached thousands of people, creating human rights awareness, and continues to be a major advocate for the vulnerable groups, creating a vital link between HIV/AIDS and human rights.
Uganet's work is at different levels of community. In grassroots community, we've been undertaking a legal aid project where we support vulnerable groups of people. This includes women, children, persons with disabilities, women living with HIV as a cluster, to empower them around rights, to help them get socialized and mobilized about human rights. They are able to demand their rights when they know. Then we go ahead to provide the legal aid as a service to make sure that when their rights are violated, they have support. They undertake legal counseling, then they can get legal representation in court. Our lawyers have been in the 5 districts of Uganda making sure that they support the grassroots communities.
Joanne Nyakato lost her eyesight 7 years ago when she fell gravely ill. The 40-year-old mother of 4 had already lost her husband to AIDS. Her vulnerability made her a target for social discrimination because she lacks a social support system, save for her 15-year-old son, Mujuni. Mujuni fends for the whole family, which includes a 3-year-old sister. He has fallen behind in school because he often misses classes to do manual labor so as to earn money to feed his family. Their desolate financial situation does not attract sympathy, but people intent on grabbing whatever property they inherited on the death of his father.
Maji bakole kibandike kiramu yanga maji we kole han oraba noti oraba muhanda kukagenze nakaitunse ipuali noti namudoti guliyo kuli oijoti namuyemine jaka oikamu omozi alone kiswa kikarugamu anorabe yikaza umukaga nekikiweka akabampaye mutsanji nekikiweka kyonkala ikema bagiva bagitwala tilelo baji akapui balabambana abani bakabaleke nanka kiramu bani basereka ibula ndogo kiamu yeije yakola akabali wakiema bamwetaga kasaidi yeje yakisoma yagama bagwesere n'umwana wao wanyakato mukitogo we mujuni bati akandika ninende y'umwana wango gutereza aliwa aisomero adi yagamba mukazi ono mwayire kiweka kyamu kinaikalo kyongala abantu batwa mbagamba busaho akwatigwa mage.
Nyakato made countless attempts to evict the people who started settling on their land. But with Uganet's legal intervention, she now has her land back.
Ati bakabangire munyagamira batemani balemwa nyagenda nyagamira bataso ati bataso bagambira gani yeije ya nyamba na atemani basamba n'emitano bali barugama ati ne barwaze inanga eitakaliana.
Partnerships with other HIV/AIDS service organizations are important in Uganet's work. It was through such vital linkages that Nyakato property problems were relayed to the Uganet staff. Berina Kamahoro works with the AIDS support organization TASO, where Nyakato gets medical services.
After receiving Nyakato and she already had her concerns. Concern number 1 was issues to do with her health and supporting for children, but later on she came in with other challenges of land. After that, sometime after her treatment, Nyakato had a challenge with land grabbing and property from her house, we were able to liaise with our partner Uganet. We wrote a referral letter we gave it to her to take it to Uganet for legal support. We were happy that they supported her with the help of police.
To widen the reach of its services, Uganet works with paralegals, mainly people living with HIV, who have been given basic legal training so that they can move further to spread the message. Through drama, they train people about their rights, using the language that people can understand, depicting situations that people can clearly relate to. Messages on domestic violence and child neglect are strongly driven home. Talks on individual rights and how they should be protected are a fundamental part of these community meetings, particularly what one ought to do if such rights are violated. William Kamba is a paralegal trained by Uganet. He works in Palisa district.
I educate them on their rights. I educate them on their on domestic violence. I educate them on will making. I educate them on these bad cultural practices like widow inheritance. I also tell them that it is a right for all people to access treatment in all health facilities in the country.
Uganet staff often conduct will-making training sessions alongside the paralegals to strengthen their competence, as well as to answer the more complex questions which might arise. Here at Palisa Hospital, the Uganet Program Officer for Palisa, Kathy Annette Nanyanzi, is taking time to clarify matters on property inheritance. Many questions are raised, but at the end of the session, many walk away enlightened on how to put their houses in order.
They have learned to make a will, so that the day I die, I will leave my property or what I've sweated for throughout my life in somebody who is responsible for them.
Land inheritance is a major problem in cases where a head of the family passes on without leaving a written will. Land disputes form the bulk of the workload that Uganet legal officers deal with.
The cases we handle mainly include land disputes concerning mainly the widows. When these ladies lose their husbands, they try to grab the land from them, especially if they are HIV positive. So when Uganet came in, we fight for such people's rights. They come to our office, then we mediate. Where we fail to mediate, we go to courts of law, and we get redress from courts of law to their advantage.